So database, no, forms a very integral part of any application, whether it is a web application or mobile application. Database forms very integral part. You all see my screen? Yes, guys. So database forms a very integral part of any application, whether it is a web application, mobile application. So this is the layers. So I am able to see my paint screen. Yes.
Yes, now.
Yes. Right. Okay. So we have three-tier architecture. Okay. For any application. So the first tier is the client side. So this this is so if you're logging from a laptop, your client machine is a laptop. Okay. If you're logging from a mobile phone, your client machine is a mobile phone. Okay. If you're logging from a desktop, your client machine is a desktop. So these are different client machines. Okay. This is the mouse. हेलो 104 में देखो कुछ काम चालू है, फर्नीचर का काम चालू है। हाँ, अदनान इनको अंदर बिठा दे पावर बीआई के लिए। फोन फोन देना उनको। आप पावर बीआई के लिए आए ना? हेलो, आप पावर बीआई के लिए आए ना? पावर बीआई के लिए ना?
Sir, you are
एसक्यूएल
not
तो
audible.
ऑनलाइन चालू है। आप क्लास में बैठो, मेरे लिंक शेयर किया, उस पर लॉग इन करो। फिर अभी फोन से करो ना, फोन से कर लो। हाँ, फोन से जो व्हाट्सएप। हाँ तो ऑनलाइन था ना ये, वो तो। आप कौन से ग्रुप में है? एसक्यूएल ग्रुप में है कि एसएमआर वाले ग्रुप में है? मैं बोला था ऑनलाइन ऑनलाइन। हाँ तो अब यहाँ मैं खुद, आज मेरी तबीयत खराब है, इसके लिए मैं खुद घर से लॉगिन कर रहा हूँ। तो अभी आप कोई फोन से लॉगिन करके बैठ जल्दी लॉगिन कर लो, जब हमने शुरू किया है अभी। There's one person who's come to the class and he thought it is an offline session, so he was calling me. Now I guess he'll join in a minute. So this is the mouse. So this are your client machines. So if I want to use Flipkart as a client machine, I will connect to the server. Okay, the web server through the internet. So through the internet, let's say this is the internet connection. I will connect to the web server. This is the web server or application server where the Flipkart site is hosted. So nowadays, whether it is a website which hosts, the web server hosts website, application server hosts application, whether it is a web server or application server. Now this is combined into one. So we can call it as a web or a app server. So the client machines, they from the, this is the internet. Through the internet they connect to the web server. Web server is where the website is hosted. So if the website is made in PHP, those PHP files are kept over here. If it is made in JSP, Java Server Pages, those JSP files are kept over here. If it is made in C#, .NET or ASP.NET, so those ASP files are kept over here. If it is made in Node.js, those Node.js file are kept over here on the servers. That's why it is called as server machine. And now if this server machine wants any data, it will go and contact the database server. So our data is kept in the database server. So if you are using MySQL and Oracle, they are SQL databases. So they will have data in the form of tables. So let's say if you want to have a login form, so you'll have a login table, and that login table will have two columns, user ID and password. We'll have two columns, user ID and password. UID and password. So let's say if someone who logs in, his user ID is ABC and whose password is 123. Like this, all if there are 1 million users, this table will have 1 million entries. So if Flipkart has 1 million subscribers, the entry of all those will be in the table. So like this, one database has multiple tables. This is a login table. They will also have product table, which will store details about the product, product number, product name, product color, product quantity, all that. Then there will be a bill table. All these tables are stored in the database. So if the user who is trying to log in, so in the front end form, he'll enter data in two text boxes, user ID and password. So let's say he enters this, and his user ID is XYZ and his password is 456. Now if he hits the login button, this request goes to the server. This is the login button. Let's say this request goes to the server. The server will have a file called as login dot. Let's say if you are doing Java, you will have login.java file, and this login.java file will then read that data. Login.java file will read the information in string data type. Okay, the string username it gets the XYZ, in string password it gets the 456. Now it will first verify whether these are legal users. So now this Java file will connect to the database and will ask, is this user a legal user? Tell me. So it will fire an SQL query. It will fire a SQL query, select star from the table name where UID equals to U and PWD equals to P. It will fire such SQL query. So is there record by this credentials? If it is there, it will return the record that yes, record exists. It will return true. And then if this returns true, we will return to the user that login successful. So the server will then return to the user login has been successful, and on the next page it will get the home page. Who understood this architecture? Now he will see the home page of that website. Let's say if it was Gmail, then he will see the home page of Gmail. Then he will see all his emails over here if it is authenticated by the backend. Yeah, Sohail, I'm recording the session. I'll share it on my WhatsApp channel. You can refer it later on. Who has understood this architecture? Now this is what, so this is the at the heart of the application. At the very heart of the application, you have the database. So now you cannot imagine any enterprise software without a database. So if you want to make a large scalable application, it will have some database which will store the information for the application. So this at the core end of the application you have the database. So if I give you a real world example, so we had made a clone of a website. Which was the website which we had made for you, Tessin?
Sir, that was grocery.
Grocery, right? Yeah, let's open that. Let's open that and I'll give you a demo where database comes into play. So now I open this page, grocery. Now I want to log into this application. Okay. So this is a PHP application. So the server has written the form of PHP files. So now if I enter any random ID, any random password, it will say invalid. Okay. Now how, on what basis is it rejecting this claim, invalid username or password? So it has connected to the database. So this is how the database should look like for such websites. So you see this is MySQL at the database end, and for grocery, we have this grocery DB. So it will have a table called as customer, here, and if we enter any of these credentials, then only it will allow us to log in. Okay. So if, let me check whether it is using this database. So in the code we have to link it to a database. Let's try to run it with this. Let me just verify first which database. So see, the grocery application, I go to the grocery application. Here you see, I go to the database folder, it is using grok db. So I'm in the right database. So I am over here. So now this is my username. So if I take this username, and the password is Reshma12345. Okay, and I try to log in with this credentials, it will log in successful. So this application is connected to the database, and this is my database. So if I add any entry over here, that user can log in. So how to create these tables, how to enter records in this table, how to update these tables, how to link between two tables. So if I have a department and that department has many employees, so how to create the department table, how to link that this employee works in which department, all that is done using SQL. So fetching the data from the database, in this is the responsibility of SQL. The red circle in this diagram, the role of SQL is over here. So if I want to store the database in the store data in the database, I will use SQL, and if I want to fetch data from the database, I will use SQL. So SQL is used to store, manipulate, you can change the data, delete the data, and fetch the data. And also you can fetch the data from the database. This is where this comes into place. Any queries? Yes. Irrespective databases of any manufacturer, whether it is Oracle or MySQL or SQL Server or MS Access or Postgres.
Sir, SQL is the main base of a database.
SQL is a query language which queries the database. So database can be any companies. Oracle is a company which makes database. The models of Oracle are your 11G, 12R, 19C. These are all models of, like how we have Audi and how we have Audi Q3. So Q3 is a model of Audi, right? So how we have Tata, then we have Nano, Brezza. No, Brezza is of Suzuki, right? So these are the models of this manufacturer. So like this database can be made by any manufacturer, but the query language will be is common irrespective whichever data manufacturer you use, whichever backend language you use. SQL is mutual and common for everyone. Got it? Now with the invention of no SQL databases, now they've invented no SQL data, that is called MongoDB. So that doesn't follow SQL. That has its own way of storing the data. That is no SQL databases. So that's why we are learning SQL, so that at the back end we can store and retrieve data from the database into our application and then process that data. Yes, no, maybe. Now SQL is a amal it's a combination of four different languages. So like how 28 states form a country India, correct? Like this, four languages come together to form SQL. The four languages are DDL, DML, DCL, and TCL. There is one more language, you can call it as DSL. But let's these five languages come together to form a language called as SQL. And why is it called SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. What does SQL stand for? Now, why is it called Structured Query Language? Because it will work only on a particular structure. That is, the data should be in a tabular form, table form. Data should be in this structure of rows and columns. If your data is stored in a predefined structure of rows and columns, then only this language will work on that data. If the data is not in the form of a particular structure, then this language will not be working on that data. So SQL demands that the data on which we are going to fire the SQL queries, that should be in a fixed structure of rows and columns. So this is, if it is an employee table, an employee number, employee name, salary, and department number. Okay, then we have the records 101. Okay, I'll just add the records in red color. So this is one entry in the table. This is one entry in the table. So employee name Alice, salary $800, department number department number or department name IT. Then 102 Ben 900, he also is an IT. 103 Charles 1000, he is into production. So data should be in this fixed structure, then only you can query data. Else, if the data is not in a fixed structure, like if you store the data in a Word, you know what's a Word file? Yes or no? So if I just store the data in a Word file like this, 101 Alice 800 IT, then I cannot query this data because this data is not a tabular form. Am I understood? That's what is called as structured query language. Now, what is the difference between these five languages? DDL is like a civil engineer. So if I want to construct a new building, I will call a civil engineer, correct? And DML is like an interior designer. Once my building is ready, once my flat is ready, and then I want to do the interiors of that, like furniture, false ceiling, carpet, put paintings. So that I'll call an interior designer for that. I will not call a software. I will not call a civil engineer. So civil engineer job is just to construct the the structure of the flat. The interiors will be done by the interior designer. Data control language grants permissions. It is for permission. My boss can see my attendance. Like what is my attendance in the last 1 month? My boss can log in and he has the permissions to view attendance of all those who are his map. But I cannot check the attendance of my boss. that my boss is planning the leave on what date. So the boss can check when is which employee planning to go on leave. They have a leave tracker. So the boss has the privilege to check which employee is planning for leave on which particular day. But the employer does not have the privilege to check that my boss or the company's owner, my senior, when are they planning a leave. So we have to grant permissions to the users, and if that user leaves the company, then we can take the permission back. Transaction is to save the data, and DSL is to fetch the data. Now each of them has their queries. DDL, first query in DDL is create. Second is alter. So once you have created a table and later on you realize that you are supposed to create 4 columns, but you have only created 3. So what you do, you can alter the table. So with the alter table you can add a new column, modify an existing column, or drop an existing column. You can do all this, but that will change the structure of the table. Then you have rename, then you have truncate, and then you have drop. These are the 5 queries of DDL bracket. Okay. Then DML, very interesting, very widely used. You have insert, update, and delete. DCL, you have grant permission and revoke the permission. If that permission is no longer needed, you can revoke the permission. TCL, to save the work, you have commit, save point, and rollback. And DSL, very widely used, is your select statement. So these 14 statements you will have to master. So if I put against them stars based on their usage, how much we use. Create, I will give 5 stars, very much used. Alter, I will give 1 star, very rarely used. Rename, 1 star, very rarely used. Truncate, 1 star, very rarely used. Drop, maybe 2 star, not. Insert, update, delete, I will give 4 stars. Very, yes, you're audible. Grant and revoke, I'll give 1 star, not that used. Not for at least beginners, we don't use that. And commit also, I'll give 3 stars, let's say. Save point and this rollback, once not wide, not much use, I'll give 1 star each.
Hello.
Select, I will give 7 star, most widely used. Yes, tell me. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me.
Well, are we going to learn each of these and subspecial detail?
Yes, we'll learn each of the 14 commands in detail. These are commands, SQL commands.
Sir, can you please repeat this step again? After the database structure, you started the practical.
Which one? The practical?
Because of that, it was stuck.
Yeah, so practical, if I say, so if I want to see all the tables which I have, I do select star from tab. This gives me all the tables I have in my database. Now I have this table teacher. If I want to see the structure of this table, what all columns are in this table, I just say describe and the table name. Okay. I just describe the table, it gives me the details of this columns in the table. If I want to see the actual table, I do this. Okay.